All right. Good evening and welcome to the November 17th meeting of the Lowell License Commission. Secretary Pires, was the meeting posted? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Dakota.
Here.
Commissioner Donahue.
Here.
Commissioner Howe.
Here.
Commissioner Krieger.
Here.
Commissioner Chan.
Here.
Present. There is the acceptance of the November 4th, 2020.
Move approved. Move approved by Commissioner Krieger, seconded by Commissioner Donahue. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, the motion carries. Number one on the agenda, please.
Application for second-hand motor vehicles, used car dealer, class 2, for Two Guys Garage Auto Sales LLC, Howard Lake Bush, LLC manager, premises at 133 Cambridge Street. It also has 3 service names.
Great. Good evening. State your name for the record.
Tyler Levis.
How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
So tell us what's going on.
I have recently purchased.
You can pull down your mask, it's fine, so I can hear you.
I recently purchased a business off of Mr. O'Keefe, and I was looking to transfer the dealer license and start to sell secondhand cars.
Mr. O'Keefe's been there since like 1942, hasn't he, or something like that? Yeah, so I think. So you're doing the 5 spaces over there that he has right there at the corner of Cambridge, right? Which he's had for a long time. Mr. O'Keefe, you've have that auto sales spaces for how long?
39 years.
39 years. Wow. And I'm hearing a rumor that you are going to be retiring soon. Is that true, sir? Good for you. So we're gonna deal with the auto sales tonight for the 5 spaces. Mr. O'Keefe's done a great job over there over the years. He's got a great reputation, and I know you'll do a great job over there. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant at this time? Mr. Chan?
Through Mr. Chairman, do you also own a two guy garage right here on Chelmsford Street,
On
right?
Chelsea Street, yeah.
Okay.
My father does.
Oh, your father.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one right here on Cambridge Street will be owned by you.
I own, yeah, he
Okay.
owns the other one.
Thank you. I thought. you
Good
owned
pickup.
that. Good pickup.
Very good,
Yeah.
very good. Wish of the body.
Move approval.
Move approved by Commissioner Donahue, seconded by Commissioner Chan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Wish you well. I know we'll see you in a couple of weeks with the transfer for the business, but if I could to Mr. O'Keefe, you've done a great job all this years. Mr. O'Keefe, you've been a credit to this city, and I applaud you. All right. Good luck with the new venture. All right.
It's a public hearing on the application by AB St. Mary Incorporated doing business as Green Market. Changes category to their package store license from wines and malt beverages to all alcoholic beverages for premises at 358.
Good evening. State your name for the record, Council.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Attorney Brian Occasion. I have an office at 1 Courthouse Lane in Chelmsford, Massachusetts. And I'm here today representing AB St. Mary Inc., doing business at Dream Market. And we're looking for a change of category from beer and wine to all alcohol license. With me is the manager of the property, Enos Nashed. Dream Market, they purchased Dream Market in February of 2021. Since that time, they've had a beer and wine license. They're looking, about 2 weeks ago, the Commonwealth issued 2 more licenses for all alcohol in the city of Lowell, and they were right on top of it, applied right away. Ms. Nashed is tip certified, and she's managed stores for 12 years in the area. She manages 4 stores. 2 of them have alcohol, and she has no issues, no disciplinary issues, any violations, any of that. The closest all alcohol package store is Rex, that's on Mammoth Road, which is about a mile away from where
Location is at 358 Mammoth Road. That location at West Meadow or East Meadow and Mammoth. That's a neighborhood. A lot of their customers live in the apartments that are around, and they walk to and from to and from the store to purchase their alcohol. Additionally, that spot where they are now did have an all alcohol license probably 10 years ago, and at some point that went away, but they're looking to bring it back. And that's my presentation. I don't know if you have any questions for Ms. Nashed, and also the president, Mr. Abdelmaker, is here as well.
Okay. Thank you, Attorney Kajan. Always do a good job informing us. Questions or comments for Councilor Kajan?
I have no questions. Thank you for the presentation.
Wish of the board.
Public hearing?
Oh, public hearing. Would you like to do that? All right, okay, all right. All right, at this time, yeah, I just can't. At this time, we'll open up the public hearing. Anybody like to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing no one, that portion of the public hearing is closed. At this time, we'll open up the public hearing. Anybody speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing no one, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Wish of the body is a motion on the floor by Commissioner Donahue, who is seconded by Commissioner Chan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well done. Best of luck to you. All right.
I'd like to compliment the attorney for talking to the issues of location, spread of different stores, and helping us to see how it fits in the community.
You should be chairman of the license board someday. Maybe you should. All right. Thank you. Thank you all. All right. Take care, Brian.
Public hearing on the application by Hilaxmead LLC doing business as University Convenience Store. Meghana Patel LLC manager for a change of category to their package store license from wines and malt beverages to all alcoholic beverages for premises at 102 University Avenue.
Good evening. State your name for the record.
Good evening, Attorney Brian Occasion. I have an office at 1 Courthouse Lane in Chelmsford, Massachusetts, and I'm here tonight representing Hilaxmead LLC, doing business as University Convenience. Again, they're seeking, that's at 102 University Ave in Lowell. They're seeking a change of category from wine and malt only to all alcoholic beverages. With me is Prashant Patel, the owner of the property, the owner of the store. He purchased the store in 2007 and has had a beer and wine license for about the last 10 years there. Now, this location is right on University Ave, basically in the heart of the UMass Lowell campus. And I think because he has done such a great job really checking IDs. He purchased a point of sale system where they have to scan the ID to purchase alcohol. So given the university concentration there and the fact that this is the first time he's been here since he got his license, he's done a great job for the last 10 years of not having any violations of underage alcohol, et cetera. Additionally, the closest all alcohol package store to University Ave, again, is Rex on Mammoth Road, which is about 1.5 miles away. There's not much up University Ave, and the closest next one is probably in Dracut. So Mr. Patel is here seeking that transfer or the change in category from beer and wine to all alcohol.
Okay. Does the Lowell Police Department have any concerns about this applicant? Or this application?
We haven't had that many complaints.
Nope.
So far, this was very much.
He's done a good job for 10 years then. Very good. That's good to hear. Questions or comments from the commissioners? No question. What's the wish of the board?
Public hearing.
Oh, man. Kerry, they always get me on this. I do. At this time, we'll open up the public hearing. Anybody like to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing no one, that portion of the public hearing is closed. At this time, we'll open up the public hearing. Anybody like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing no one, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Motion on the floor by Commissioner Chan, seconded by Commissioner Howe. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Wish you the best of luck. Do well. All right, take care of yourself. Thank you. Hey, John, before you get to number 4, so, well, is it going to be an application for another alcoholic, all alcoholic for a variety store?
No, this is,
Or is this one included in with the 2 that have already been allowed by the state?
the 2 that you just heard are the 2 that are allowed by the state.
Okay, and this number 4
This
is,
is a beer and wine.
okay, just for the beer and wine, okay. So we're at max with all alcoholic.
If you were to approve this, but this is requesting a hearing.
Okay, understood.
So we have 1 free beer and wine license,
Yep,
and this would be the one that you're listening to.
understood. I appreciate that. Thank you. Didn't mean to jump ahead, but go ahead. Thank you.
Application by Vijay Patel, doing business as Jerry's Food Store, Vijay Patel manager, for a wines and malt beverages package store license for premises at 1172 Lawrence Street. It is requested that legal notice be published in the local newspaper and public hearing to be held, to be held December 2nd, 2021 at 6 p.m.
Okay. I was just going to schedule the public hearing. Attorney, do you need to speak, or?
Nope.
Okay, that's fine. All right. All right, we'll schedule it. All right, that's fine.
Thank you.
Set it up for December 2nd, John. All right.
Got it.
Have a good evening, guys. All right, be well.
Okay. Ready? Hearing on allegations of misconduct from Raymond Kelly Richardson, Superintendent of Police, dated October 12, 2021. Allegations of misconduct are charged against the Middle Street Village, doing business as the Village Smokehouse, 92 to 98 Middle Street, Alan Kaplan, License Manager, all alcoholic beverages restaurant licensee. Allegations of misconduct occurred October 2nd, 2021, and are namely, 1, failure to maintain order in the premises and surrounding areas, and 2, failure to notify Lowell Police of altercation reported by patrons to Lowell Police on October 3rd, 2021.
You're up, Counselor.
Oh, you just called us?
Yeah?
Oh, my goodness. Well,
State your name for the record, sir.
Can I take off the mask?
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Attorney Travis Jacobs for the Village Smokehouse. It's very nice to see all of you.
Long time no here, Travis.
I know. It's good to be back.
It's good to be back.
I missed our sparring.
Yeah.
It's very fun.
Well done.
But I am sad to hear we're missing someone. I'm sad to hear that. But it's nice to meet you. So, would you like me to start?
Floor's all yours, sir.
All right, thank you. So, I thought it was very interesting when I got a call from the gentleman at the Smokehouse, because I always remember in my previous visits up here that they were always one of the good ones. They were generally violation-free. They followed the rules for the most part. They have 2 local owners, both of whom are here at their establishment just about every single night that they're open, which I know for the board was a key issue with other licensees. As everybody knows, they were closed for COVID. They reopened about 12 months later last spring, and as far as I understand, they have not been violated for 3 years. And since opening last spring, this is their first violation, and I would posit that it's a relatively minor violation, the failure to notify the police after an incident, relatively minor incident. As I know it's important to do that, but they also have a history, and I think the captain may acknowledge, they have a history of contacting the police. It's not like they don't contact the police when there are incidents. They've done that on numerous occasions. And all those incidents are obviously not related to the Smokehouse. They've called for things like car accidents in the street between 2 vehicles, a car hit a telephone pole and it fell in the street. So they've they've called for a variety of things. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. They also seem to have a great setup. They have a robust security team. They use a scanner, which I had never heard of, but apparently there are scanners available now for the IDs that connect to the internet and allow the user to access a database of existing licenses. And what the scanner does is it actually takes a photo of the front and back of the ID, and then it compares that using like machine learning technology to the real IDs. And they're able to identify even minute differences in the real versus fake IDs. So they've apparently been very successful in using that device to keep underage patrons out of their establishment. And they also have a wand which they use regularly to check for weapons and such. On this particular night, I understand that there was an incident involving a group of young people. Their security team pounced in, separated everybody. I know that the board, I'm sure, recognizes that every liquor license establishment, especially bars and nightclubs, they're at risk of having people who get into fights. It's just a fact of life. But the important thing is that they have a security team to prevent things from escalating or getting any worse than they might be. And my understanding is that their security team came in real fast, within seconds, separated these people, and one of the individuals was assisted by an employee of the Smokehouse who is actually a licensed EMT, helped this young man, and they tried to get them to go to the hospital. They refused. So the Smokehouse actually got them an Uber and paid for their Uber to go to the hospital, which is even in the report I noted. And I believe they did end up at the hospital, if I'm not mistaken. And so eventually what happened here is the manager failed to report the incident immediately to the Lowell Police Department. And that's the violation that they're facing today. And I think it's important to just reiterate that, this isn't an incident or a circumstance where they're trying to hide an incident. It's not a situation where they have a history of not calling or reporting incidents. I think, in fact, it might be the opposite. They probably have a history of calling for too many things out of an abundance of caution, and this just happened to be a situation where they just spaced it and forgot. And, given their past history, relatively unviolated location, 2 local owners regularly there, clearly doing the things the board wants to see a liquor license holder doing in this city, I think it would be a good signal to a licensee like this to come down a little bit easy after the COVID incident and everybody's still kind of struggling in this industry, and not punish these guys too much, given that they seem to be doing the vast.
Attorney Jacobs, can you elaborate on the licensing procedure you had just mentioned, where they scan it?
Yeah.
And it, can you give me a little bit more?
Yeah. So it's
educate me on that a little bit.
Yeah. I wish I knew about this before. I think it's relatively new though. So it's a device, handheld device, and the patron has their ID, and the device scans that ID, and then is able to check the, like the hologram, the location of the data, the edges, the photographs, little minute details, right? Like when you're making a fake ID, maybe you forget to, or you don't place the data in the right spot, right? It's off a little bit. Naked eye may not pick up on that information, but this particular device has a subscription service, so it updates regularly, and it's able to compare those scans to real IDs. So they compare these data points to the real ID, and it can come back and tell you, it'll give you an opinion on whether that ID is legitimate or not.
Captain, can you corroborate that? Is that exactly what the system does, or?
Yeah, there are systems in place like that.
Oh, he doesn't have a mic. Kerry, can you move your mic over to him?
Right, there is technology like that available, where people can scan the license and it comes up as valid, and everything else, showing that it's a true ID.
That it's a true ID.
Yes.
So when does this technology come out? Because this was not privy to us in prior, this is the first I've heard of this.
Yeah, I mean, they've been around for a while, as far as I know, to my knowledge.
Yeah, I think the first step was getting true ID. Some of us have.
Oh, it's the
started
true
with
IDs,
ID.
right?
Yeah.
Is that what it is, for true IDs or
It's
not?
not true ID.
No?
It
You want
doesn't
to,
have-
you can speak if you like.
It's the only scanner out there that you pay every month for a subscription,
Yeah?
and it actually connects to the internet, and then it takes the barcodes, and it looks at the barcodes, and looks at the ID, and like those other old style hand scanners would just scan it and log it and say, yeah.
Yeah.
This one makes sense, this scanner, because we pay every month, kicks back if it doesn't like it, if it doesn't, if it's expired, if it kicks back everything, and they say they're 99.5% accurate, and we believe it. And we probably had this particular one for 3.5, 4 years now. It's great.
Captain?
Does it check the RMV database of that state?
It doesn't check the RMV database. It goes into, they have a system. I don't believe it's legal for them to go into the RMV database
not,
and check it.
yeah,
But
it's not.
what it does is it takes the barcode and the ID, and it determines whether or not it was made properly and where it was made. So it's not just logging it in, it's looking at it, sending it, it has to be connected to the internet. It goes to them, and then they come back in a matter of seconds and say, either it's good or it's not good.
I'm just curious as to where they're getting their data.
I don't think it's the data from the people, I think it's the data from the barcodes, and then how it's looking at the ID to say, hey, was this made?
Yeah, so,
So you're asking, it's basically, hasn't been tampered with?
It hasn't been tampered with, or that, I think, the way the guy explains to me, like, they know if it's been made right.
but what,
So, and it's not just, it does militaries, it does every state, doesn't do passports, but it does do militaries, and it comes right back. It also logs the names of all the people, so we can store 6,000 names in there of who's been in, who's been out. It has a re-entry feature on it, so if someone goes out, gives their ID to someone else, and they come back in, the scanner pops up and says, this person was already in here tonight. It's well worth the $70 a month.
Captain, go ahead.
I just don't know what it's cross-referencing, you know what I mean? What's the database that it's cross-referencing? I mean, it's probably telling you that, yeah, it looks like a valid ID, right? And everything's in check, but,
Correct. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it's doing. But it's using machine learning technology,
Yeah.
so it will have already scanned a legitimate ID from that state RMV, right?
so I don't think,
Compares that.
if that's the case, I don't think it would be able to tell you if a license is active by scanning the barcode.
Well, it would be able to see, the barcode has the encoded expiration date.
Mhm.
Whether the license was suspended or not, I mean,
Right.
there's no way to tell unless you have access to the actual RMV data, but
Yeah.
no system does that as far as I know.
I mean, I guess it's better than having nothing in
Yeah.
place, you know, but I'm just curious as to what the database is that they're checking, you know, cross-referencing.
Again, I
yeah.
don't know, I can tell you this, that this thing is better than anything
Yeah.
that I've ever used before. And whatever it is, it works, and it's to the point now where the thing is so good that we don't even get a lot of people trying to get in, because they know that our scanner does pick up, the new fake Massachusetts ID that has that. So it picks up, I'd like to say it's not picking up everything, it's picking up everything.
I'm intrigued by this, but I don't know enough about it, and I don't mean to put more work on you, Captain,
I
but
just-
could you work with Mr. Kelleher? Because I'd like to know more about this.
If you can give me the name of the company, I can look into it.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
IntelliCheck?
Yep. I can put you in touch with my salesman.
Okay, so let's get back to the point in hand here. All right, so first I want to apologize to the public. I should have had the complaint read so the public knows. So Captain, if you wouldn't mind just reading the complaint so the public knows what we're talking about here at this point, I appreciate it.
The Lowell Police Department respectfully requests that enforcement action be taken against the above licensee for violations that took place on October 2nd, 2021. Specifically, 1.16, the manager's responsibilities. The manager shall at all times maintain order and decorum in the premises and in all immediately surrounding areas adjacent to the licensed premises and in any parking lot by the licensee for use by its patrons. And the second violation was under 1.20, illegal activities. All licensees for the sale and service of alcoholic beverages, either the individual, the partnership, the manager of record, or a corporation, profit and nonprofit, shall notify the Lowell Police Department immediately by telephone or otherwise when any violation of law, disorder, disturbance is taking place or is about to take place on the licensed premises or other premises approved by the License Commission for sale, service, and or consumption of alcoholic beverages. And that's basically the gist of that violation.
All right, I thank you. I want to make sure the viewing public heard that. Attorney Jacobs, do you have anything further to add to this?
I should add one more point,
Sure.
which is, it's my understanding that Captain Kennedy, he used to allow some of the bars to keep a log instead of calling in, actually calling in or sending an email. They were allowed to keep a log of incidents. Now, I know that practice is not, it's not allowed anymore, but it might be helpful to send a notice out to licensees. Like I know Mr. Piles, he has everybody's email and phone numbers and addresses. Might be helpful to just send out a notice with this year's renewals that policy is no longer in place.
I'm not sure if that was ever a policy. That's first I've heard of it, so. I'm going to open up the floor to the commissioners for any questions for you, attorney, or your clients. Officer, would you like to testify as well? Or what happened?
Just to confirm.
Can you just up to the mic and state your name for the record?
Officer Stephen Hunter with the Lowell Police Department.
Officer, just tell us what happened.
So to confirm what Attorney Jacobs said, I responded to Lowell General Hospital that night and spoke with the two listed victims. They informed me pretty much everything he said, that the incident had occurred at the Smokehouse. They were assisted in the back with the staff who took care of them with first aid, and then they had received an Uber up to the hospital.
I believe after reading the report, one of the young gentlemen had stitches, I believe.
I believe so, yes.
Yep, okay.
When I went to the hospital, they hadn't been seen yet. They were still in the waiting room.
Okay, yeah.
And then I did a follow-up at the Smokehouse. I met with Mr. Kelleher, and he informed me that the incident, and pretty much reiterated what had happened, and confirmed what they had told me at the hospital.
Was an arrest made?
What was that?
Was an arrest made?
No, so when I spoke with them, they didn't have like a confirmation of who had actually done it. They were more blindsided.
Do we have cameras working in there? So we didn't find out who they were?
It was grainy.
Copies of those videos were provided to the two gentlemen
Yeah?
who went to the hospital, and I believe they did provide that to the police.
Okay, great. Okay. Commissioner Donahue, questions? Put your mic on, sir.
I agree with counsel that can't control every situation, and I think the ABCC has come down in cases that a spontaneous altercation is not something that a manager or the owners can be held responsible for. But my concern is with the failure to notify when, according to one of the police reports, both males suffered lacerations to the head and were bleeding. And I believe in part of that, one of the reports, both of the young men received staples to the head, if I'm not mistaken.
Four each.
Four each staples. So I would say, Counselor, that there is some seriousness to this when two young men suffer these types of injuries, and the police are not called by the management of the bar. I think they recognized to some extent that, yes, there was some seriousness to this incident, and they did give assistance, and I give them credit for that. But there is the rule, and these are two gentlemen that have they run more than one establishment over the years, and they know the city of Lowell and the rules, so I expect that they know that they're supposed to notify the police, and that's my major concern because of the injuries involved. Thank you.
Commissioner Howe?
Attorney Jacobs, thank you for your presentation. Seems like yesterday that we saw you.
It does.
I appreciate the bars assisting the injured people. I appreciate them calling the Uber. I also appreciate the new system that they have for IDs. What I'm concerned about is the fact that I don't agree with that this is a minor incident. We have two individuals who had 4 staples in their skull each. And so I don't agree that's a minor incident, and that was a result of a beer bottle hitting them over the head. I also don't agree that it's a minor violation, the failure to call the police. I bring this case up all the time, Willie Tops. There was a fight, seemed pretty innocuous. The bar didn't call the police, well, someone got shot and killed outside. So the reason the police need to be called is because the police will maintain law and order and safety. So I don't agree that that was a minor incident. Now, you indicated that they haven't had any violations for 3 years. I'd like to ask Secretary Pyer, is that correct? If you know?
I do not know personally.
Attorney Janess?
Thank you, everyone. I'm Carrie Janess for the City of Lowell. I'm here with Helen Anderson, Assistant City Solicitor. I did go through the prior discipline of the Smokehouse, and they had the ABCC investigators found underage drinkers there in 2018, which is 3 years ago. 2019, this commission suspended their license for 1 day due to multiple underage drinkers. There was also a request by LPD in February of 2020 for the commission to consider reducing the hours of the Smokehouse due to a number of violent incidents there. Due to the pandemic, that hearing got bumped a couple of times, and then obviously the bar was closed for a long time, so the urgency that was felt by the superintendent at that time wasn't there anymore due to the global circumstances. But certainly I would not, I mean, you know, there's discipline every year, 2015, 16, 17, not a lot, but at least one incident per year, and, you know, a number within the last 3 years. So it's inaccurate to say they have not had any discipline.
Do you have any response to that, Attorney Jacobs?
I do believe that one of those incidents was appealed and was successful, right?
I believe so.
No.
No?
The 2019 incident, they initially filed an appeal, but they filed it too late, so they withdrew it from they withdrew the appeal. So it was a 1-day suspension, which they did serve.
I would still say, I mean, we're talking 2019, it's 2021 now. My understanding is the February 2020 discussion, in a large part related to the calls that had been called in by staff reporting incidents or things that had happened in and about the location. And it just kind of made me want to look back at the regulation on this point. And the regulation under section 120, 1.20, it does say that a notification to the Lowell Police Department when a violation of law, disorder, disturbance is taking place or is about to take place shall not have an adverse effect on the licensee's record, provided that there is no finding of a violation by the licensee. So, I mean, obviously that last phrase is important, but I think, you know, when you're calling in for car accidents, people hitting a telephone pole, I mean, that's not related, you know, that's not causing, you want them to do that, in other words. You want to have licensees who are taking that kind of initiative to do that. And so I think it would be, it would send a bad message to hold that against a licensee just for the calls. But even still, you know, I recognize what I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Attorney Janess.
Attorney Jass. I recognize what she's saying. I know from experience that liquor license establishments are not without violations. It's a fact of life for most of them, especially in, city and downtown areas. This licensee seems to be taking proactive steps to keep underage people out, keep things safe. They have, like I said, a robust security team. Even the police report notes that that the young man, he thought he had diffused things, and then suddenly, was hit in the head. There's really no ability for anyone to stop that. And then the young man even notes that they assisted him and rendered him aid. On the staples, the report is a little bit unclear. It's a police report, not a medical record. It says that they required sutures and staples. I know staples sounds, really bad, certainly worse than sutures, but they both really have the same effect, which is just basically to pull the skin together so it can heal. I know these two gentlemen didn't even want to go to the hospital, so I can't imagine that they were so injured that, that these were, they weren't doing surgery, in other words, on their heads.
No, I get where you're going. I just don't want to get off topic here.
Sure.
I do want to ask Attorney Janess, and if my memory serves me well, Attorney Janess, there was a city council subcommittee with regard to safety with this incident, if I recall. Is that correct?
That is probably correct. I don't have that information.
And I believe then COVID just hit when we were going to bring them in for a possible reduction in hours.
Right, and
at that
City Hall
point.
was closed for months
Right,
in a row, so.
and understandably so. And understand this board is not here to shut down businesses at all. But
If I may,
absolutely, go right ahead.
Chair, Captain Sheehan has some information about other incidents in the area in the last couple of months. So-
Captain Sheehan, want to share those with us?
Yeah. If I may just state also, by notifying the Lowell Police of an assault in progress or a past assault, that most likely would trigger a response from Trinity Ambulance, who were the professionals that would have checked out the injured parties on the scene. So they could have evaluated them on the scene and determined whether they need to go to the hospital right away. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That also triggers that. But I had received an email from one of the victims who stated to me that they each got 4 staples in their head. That's where we got that information.
All right.
Since
go right ahead, Captain, go ahead.
Since September 6th, there have been 9 incidents over there. Obviously, not all violations, but for an instance, there was an assault where a guy was arrested at 338 Market Street for assaulting his girlfriend, and the dispute started at the Smokehouse. Then there was another on 150 Market Street, an aggravated assault. A fight broke out, and she tried to stop it, and she was punched while leaving the Smokehouse. Like he stated earlier, the attorney, there was vandalism. Somebody hit a pole while leaving the Smokehouse. There was a simple assault. Smokehouse employees were hit by some suspect after he refused to leave. On 10-3 was the 2 males that we're talking about. On 10-10, there was an altercation that was broken up by Smokehouse security inside. They started to walk down Middle Street and started fighting again. On 10-11, Mr. Kaplan reported a subject had emerged from his vehicle and forcefully pushed him. On 10-11, there was a male arrested on Dutton Street for shooting a firearm into the air. We don't have any evidence that he came from there, but it was down the street on Shattuck Street, actually. And then on 10-12, person stated she was at the Smokehouse and her car got broken into. But not all of them are attributed to the Smokehouse, but that's what's happening in and around that place since September 6th.
Attorney Jacob, what's the capacity at the Smokehouse?
I don't know what the capacity is, but
Can you ask your client for me? 402. Okay. And on any given Friday or Saturday, Mr. Kelleher, how many people are in the Smokehouse?
Usually we're around 300, 320.
All right.
Local police come by every night and ask.
Yeah, no, and I, obviously, what Captain Shan has brought up is all not because it's all on you, and I think he stated that, but I'm worried that, fights are happening inside and outside, minor, they may be, but they're still happening in your area of business, which worries me. And do you have the necessary security to maintain 300 people and on any given moment? I think that's where I'm trying to go with this, is that it seems to be like these little things are going to start adding up, and I'm not saying this happened, this gentleman was at the Smokehouse, but I don't want to get to the level where somebody is pulling out a pistol and shooting it up in the air in your establishment. So is 300 too many for you to handle?
No,
It's not.
absolutely not.
And if I could just jump in.
All right, we have 3 people that want to talk, so if anybody wants to talk, then go right up to the podium and speak. Go ahead, Attorney. They hired you.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
let me talk first. I mean, I can appreciate what the liaison is saying, but the reality is none of those incidents resulted in a violation against the Smokehouse.
Right.
I'm sure, I'm confident if the.
And let me just go a step further to explain where I was going with that, is that when we are dealing with 300 people in any given moment, then the processes break down. And that phone call isn't made to the Lowell Police Department because both good guys, all right? I get it. And they're trying to help out the guys that are bleeding on the floor. But whose job was it to call the police? So something broke down there, and the processes that they had in place broke down. Is that because of the capacity of so many people there, or did somebody make an error again? So that's my question.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm worried about, because
Sure.
we escalate a little bit more and more and more, and Attorney Janessa has brought up the altercation, the incidences that have happened and have been brought before this board in the last 3 years. Now, you said that there hadn't been, but she just brought up quite a few cases here. So I want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. Somebody wasn't doing their job by not calling the Lowell Police Department, who then would have triggered the call to Trinity Ambulance, as Captain Sheehan said. So this isn't minor to me, for the fact that we've had trouble there before. I get it. These guys are on hand, and they're always there, and I applaud them for that. But something is broken down there, and we need this to get fixed. Well, guess what? Those hours are coming down, and we'll be shutting down at 12 o'clock if this happens again. And I'll be the first one to bring it up for motion. So I need to know, I need someone to tell me where the processes broke that nobody called. Because to me, that's the first thing that happened when you own a bar. I've owned bars. I've owned 3 bars in my lifetime. And I know exactly what to do the first thing. The bartender is the one who makes the call. The head bartender is the one who makes that call to the police right away. They know it.
Yeah.
What happened?
I think the reality is that there was just a lapse in memory in calling. That's it. And it
Bad answer, attorney. Bad answer.
But it's a legitimate answer because nobody's perfect. They don't have any problem.
Come on, these guys have been in this game for years and years. They know what they're supposed to do. I know these guys. They're good guys. I know them. But if you're not doing your job, I'm not there to back you up. I'm not here to shut down your business, but I'm not here to be, hey, they're nice guys, we'll let them do what they want to do. I'm sorry, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm the chairman of this license board, and the 4 people that are here with me, we have to protect the safety of the residents of that area. And right now, some of those residents, I'm feeling warm and cozy right now.
Yeah.
So I need to walk out of here saying, I feel good about the Smokehouse and what they're gonna be doing. Right now, I'm not.
Well, and I will acknowledge that, my client acknowledged that he knows he needs to call, and it was a lapse. And, that's not, you can't fault him for taking responsibility. He's not passing the buck to anybody else. He knows he was supposed to call. He just forgot to call the next morning. That's it. That's the truth. And I don't want to, spin
Not
it.
the next morning, Attorney Jacobs. That
By
moment.
the next morning.
That moment.
Correct. But by the time he woke up the next morning, the officer had already been at the hospital. They already were aware of the incident. So, I mean, I think by then it was irrelevant. But he's not passing the buck. He's not saying, oh, it was
Oh, and I'm
somebody
not
else should've done
saying he
this.
is. It's just that they've
think-
been here before. They know the rules and regulations of the Lowell License Commission. You must call the Lowell Police Department.
Correct.
This to me is a no-brainer.
Yep.
And this is the first thing that you do. And now, if they were here in front of us and they've been in business for 6 months, I would have said, listen, this board would probably say, listen, read the rules and regulations again. Know them inside and out. But these guys have been in this business for years. They know what they're supposed to do. I don't know how much more this board can tolerate, because I'm about here, myself, because these guys are bright guys. They know how to run a business. They're making money, I get it. And they want to put 300 people, and they're all drinking, and everybody's having a good time, and they're making money. But once you make a mistake like that, the 5 people on this board are now starting to go, what's going on? And why have they been in front of us 4 or 5 times? And why have we suspended their license for a day? And why are we contemplating probably bringing down their hours from 2 to 1 o'clock or to 12 o'clock? See, these are things that are going through my mind right now.
Sure.
I don't know what the other 4 commissioners are thinking, but I'm not feeling warm and fuzzy right now, because that, to me, is Bar Owner 101 manual. You call the Lowell Police Department when there's something that happens, just to protect yourself. Protect yourself.
Right, I think the history shows that they've done that, you know, and that's why I reiterate that they're not, you know, passing the buck, they're not saying, you know, making up some spinny excuse. They have called after every incident, even clearly incidents that had nothing to do with them, they've called. And so I think that is an example of how responsible they are. But nobody's perfect. I mean,
Understood,
right? And
understood.
that's just the reality.
I'm right with you there. And I'll yield the floor to other commissioners. Commissioner Krieger?
Yeah, we're emerging from the COVID pandemic, at least I hope so. And my worry is that if we don't establish hard guidelines now, other people will start to stray. Frankly, I would not object to suspending it for a weekend, but I'd be willing to vote to hold it in abeyance if both of the managers stood up at that podium, admitted that they failed in the area of manager responsibility, and said a few words about how they're going to make it better.
Commissioner Chan?
Well, I just want to take one step a little further. To me, listening to your presentation, my first impression, I think in general, to most people, when there's an incident that involving someone, injury or anything like that, the first impression that comes to your mind is call the cop. That's normal if there's anything like that. But also in the rule, and the 2 gentlemen probably understand that, know all of this all along. And my concern is that that has not come into, and then when you said that they just forgot, totally forgot. But I thought that would struck anyone, the first impression, call a cop, when there's anything, there's a fight or anything like that. That's my concern. And it's, if we just let this go and continue on, and I'm not sure where we're heading. So,
Okay.
that's just my concern.
I mean, and just in response, I think their first concern was the safety and health of the young man, and that's why they rendered aid, and they did render aid and helped him. And
In response to you, sir, just like Captain had mentioned, if you call a cop, it would trigger an ambulance that would have medical response at that point. Thank you.
Okay. Captain Chan, anything else further to add?
I don't think I have anything else at this time. I know in the past, the Smokehouse has had problems securing details on the weekends.
Are you having problem getting details over there, Captain?
Right now, we seem to be. But we also have the downtown patrol that's there every weekend, which is a supervisor and 2 officers. So we are trying to fill them. I know you're calling and trying to get them filled, so
Is there usually 1 or 2 officers on?
usually just 1.
It's usually 1, then the patrol, right?
Yep.
All right.
But that's,
Attorney Janess, do you have anything to offer or add? I apologize.
I'll just say, not to belabor the point, but in this instance, calling the police isn't a formality of the rules of the License Commission, although it is that. I mean, when you have 2 young men bleeding from the head in your office, it also just should be common sense as a business owner that the reaction to that should be to call the police, regardless of the rules and regulations. And again, these are sophisticated business owners who know that they're supposed to do that. And Trinity would have been in the best position to evaluate the young men, treat them on the scene, transport them to the hospital if necessary. But again, thank you.
I know, Mr. Jacobs, that you've been hired by Mr. Keller and Mr. Kaplan, but I'm kind of intrigued by Commissioner Krieger's thought here. First, I'd like to know what they were thinking, and if in fact they're saying, yeah, we did wrong and we're going to do better. Though in the back of my mind, gentlemen, I am worried about this capacity. For some reason, just hearing Captain Sheehan and withstanding some of there were a couple that I didn't think needed to be brought up, but if there are fights that are happening from the Smokehouse, domestic or whatever, that means there could be some possible over-serving over there as well. But can you tell me what happened that night, both of you? And would you mind? You can confer with your lawyer if you don't want to speak, that's fine.
Yeah.
So that particular night, there was an altercation. Probably took 10 to 15 seconds. I don't know if you've seen the video. The captain has the video. The door guys were right there.
Yeah.
The door guys got him out the door, got the guy we thought did it out the door. I turned around, I went over there myself. The other 2 gentlemen had blood on the top of their heads. I'm like, hey, let's go get this looked at, right? I bring him out back. I have my kid that's an EMT trained. I bring him over there. He looks at it. I said to the kids, hey, you want me to get an ambulance? No, we don't. I'm like, all right, let's get this kid taken care of. I run outside, Alan's out there, and I said, hey, that kid's gone? Yes. Should I have called the police? In hindsight, being 2020, I absolutely should have. I will say this, and if I called 911 every time someone pushed someone, I think I would be in more trouble than I am now. But this particular incident, when I talked to Captain Sheehan on the following week, I'm like, you're right, Captain, I should have called. I woke up the next day after the officer came by that night, and I'm like, Jesus, why didn't we call? But to me, it was 10 seconds. It was over. I wasn't going to call. I didn't call 911. Upon talking to the captain, he's like, hey, the right thing to do there would have been to call the general number because there was no disturbance, there was no more fight, and to have the regular policeman come down and assess what was going on. I should have called. We call for everything else. We file incident reports. You can ask the secretary. We try and cross our T's and dot our I's. And this particular night, I missed it. And that's the truth.
Okay. Obviously, since the pandemic has taken, we've lost a couple of younger nightclub visitors downtown. Dudley's is closed. And you're basically the game in town right now.
We are it.
All right? And once again, I'm, for some reason, in the back of my mind, just because I've owned bars, and capacity is a really worrisome thing with me, Tim. You know what, you're saying that you can handle 400 people. You have 300 on a Friday night.
I've got
But
8 to 9
but then I listen to Captain Sheehan, and those little pushes, like you're talking about,
Yeah.
they happen to us. We all know they do. But now, he named off 5 of them that, beside the other ones that I thought didn't need to be said here, because I don't think it had anything to do with you. Could have. I mean, with the handgun, it might have come from the Smokehouse, and the kid shot a pistol off and then let it go in Kirk Street. Not saying it had anything to do with you, all right? But the other little things that Captain Sheehan brought up, that's in the back of my mind, saying that the 300 people in your place is a lot of
I
people.
respectfully disagree.
It's a lot of people, though,
But I
Tim.
respectfully disagree, because if you want to go by those one by one,
Yeah,
the one with the inside with the staff getting hit, that was me, because there was a person I didn't like in there that was being difficult. I asked the guy to leave. The guy took a swing at me. The other one on the outside was the guy that got out of the car, and Alan wouldn't allow him to come in because he was intoxicated, and the guy gave him a hard time, pushed Alan, and Alan called the police. So if you want to go by one and see what happened in the Smokehouse, I'm more than willing to do that. We're not perfect. We are the only show in town. Mill City's gone, Dudley's is gone,
Yeah.
Garcia's is gone. We're working as hard as we can. We do ask for a police detail every Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And even this incident, as bad as, it sounds, the two kids that were involved have been back into the Smokehouse. It's
Sure.
not like they thought this was that terrible that they would never go back into the Smokehouse again. Again, I should have called. I'm taking responsibility,
I appreciate that. I
right?
do.
And if you want to go over every incident, we can go over every incident.
No,
I can't do
I'm
anything about a husband and wife that are fighting outside.
just worried about the escalation of incidents. That's all, Tim. That's what I'm bringing to your attention, is that when you put 300 people in your room,
Yeah,
that's a lot of people.
I
That's a
agree.
lot of people. And that's a lot of people from 21 years old to 30 years old demographic that, you know what? I don't know how many bartenders you have and how many, it's tough to say, hey, listen, you've had 3 beers, you've had 7 beers. You've had 7 drinks, you know what I mean? It gets out of hand quickly. That's why I'm worried about where we are here. I mean, are we able to handle 300 people on a Friday night at 12 o'clock, 12:30 at night?
Yes. I have 8 tour guys on.
You have 5
Yeah.
people you just said that
I
to,
just
and I'm going to
said
remember
all
that.
8 of you. We have 8 tour guys on, plus Alan and myself. We ask for a police detail every Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
All right.
And when they don't come, we do it. We do a good job.
Okay.
Since 2019 that the attorney brought up, we've had 8 compliance checks, and we've passed them all. And they're not going in there just looking for underage. They are looking for what you're talking about, over-serving and everything like that.
Yep.
And again, we do the best we can. And I understand we've got 300 people in there. I don't think that should be a penalty against us.
If your capacity is 400, fine. My concern is handling 300 people.
We can.
All right. All right. Any further questions or comments?
I would like,
Commissioner Howe.
I would like Commissioner Krieger to put his comment into a form of a motion.
Commissioner Donahue, before we do that?
If I might, before Commissioner Krieger makes his motion, there are 2 allegations here brought by the police department. Number 1.16, manager's responsibility. I like to see that we start keeping these things neat and charge. The manager's responsibility, I would propose that he be found, the Smokehouse be found not responsible of that because of what I quoted earlier, the ABC decisions about spontaneous fights within a bar, not something that the ABCC considers controllable by managers. If there was a report that this was 2 groups were yelling each other inside the bar prior to it, I think it would be their responsibility and they would be found responsible. But my proposal would be to, on that first allegation, be found not responsible or discharged.
Okay.
And then I would listen to,
Would you like to file that in motion?
I think so.
Okay.
I think.
We have a second to Commissioner Donahue's motion?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Howe. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all in favor there. Commissioner Krieger, would you like to file a motion?
Yeah, I sort of rehearsed this in an indirect way. I was swapping these stories with a buddy of mine, a Navy aviator, and we were talking about people being grounded, and I mentioned that I'd been grounded for a week. The ops officer called me in and said, "Don't take this personally, we have to set an example, you're grounded for a week." Which is never fun. I mean, it cuts into your flying time. And I think that we're at the point, we have to set the example for the new world that is opening up again after COVID. And I would suspend the license for 3 days. I'd recommend over a weekend, and I would hold it in abeyance for 1 year.
Is there a second on the floor?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Howe. Roll call.
Commissioner Dakota?
The motion's for 1 year.
In abeyance for 1 year.
Commissioner Donahue, go ahead.
I know it's been seconded, but I was wondering if anybody would, I had thought of.
After a second, I should have opened the floor once again for any comments, so go right ahead before we have a roll call. I'm sorry, Secretary Pius. Go ahead, Joe.
I had contemplated making a motion for 2 days held in abeyance for 6 months. We're starting out, hopefully, we won't see them again. I know they've been open for a while. I know there are problems in the area, but there are other establishments that serve alcohol in that area. And so I don't want to say that everything in the area is Smokehouse related, although it's, as Mr. Keller has said, they're the big show in town. They are. But I was going to make that as an alternative. I was going to make that as a motion, but
Okay.
Mr. Krieger came up first.
Attorney Janessa, if I'm correct with Robert's rules, we'd have to vote on the first motion, and if that fails, then we go to the second motion? That's correct. Thank you very much. It's Commissioner Krieger's motion for 3 days suspension, all 3 days held in abeyance for 1 year. Roll call.
Commissioner Dakota?
No.
Commissioner Donahue?
No.
Commissioner Howe?
No.
Commissioner Krieger?
Yes.
Commissioner Chan?
We have a substitute motion on the floor from Commissioner Donahue for 2 days suspension, both held in abeyance for 6 months. Is there a second on the floor?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Howe. Any further discussion? Final word from me, and I'll let you speak after, Counsel, all right? I think I've expressed my concern, and without a doubt, Mr. Kaplan, Mr. Kelleher, you guys are there 24 hours a day, and I compliment you for that. And I think that should be said, because you are there all the time, and you're trying to make this work. But when this board sees that you're not dotting i's and crossing t's, it's going to come back at you. And I need you guys to understand the severity of what I'm saying to you. All right? It's very important that we go from step A to B to C to D and follow the rules and regulations of the Lowell License Commission. All right? We've had, and I can't even recall the subcommittee meeting, Attorney Janess, with the city council, but I know it was pretty heated, and some of those city councilors were still seating there. Are probably not going to like our decision tonight because they probably want your license pulled. All right? And there's a lot of residents around that neighborhood that are being waken up at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning because of what's going on outside your doors. So I say that as the chairman of this board, that I need you to take this seriously. To me, the motion by Commissioner Donahue sends a message, but we also understand that we're all trying to get out of this pandemic and try to get back into business and try to get back to regular, normal hours here. I don't want to be the guy to make a motion to bring you down to 12 o'clock at night, because you might as well just shut your doors. I appreciate you saying that. Motion on the floor by Commissioner Donahue, 2 days suspension held in abeyance for 6 months. Do I have a second?
I seconded it.
Second, Commissioner Howell, I apologize. Roll call.
Commissioner Dakota?
Yes.
Commissioner Donahue?
Yes.
Commissioner Howe?
Yes.
Commissioner Krieger?
Yes.
Commissioner Chan?
Yes.
5 in favor, motion carries.
Councilor Jacobs, you have anything further to say? Thank you very much. Gentlemen, appreciate you being here. Attorney Janess, thank you for being here. Captain Sheehan, your presence, thank you very much. Move adjournment by Commissioner Krieger, seconded by Commissioner Chan. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Everyone have a good evening.